of Fort Niagara are admonished to draw near and give their attention, for this General Court-Martial is now sitting. God save the King and his honorable court. My name is Captain Pollock of the His King's Regiment, 8th Regiment, and today we are here at the Court-Martial of Reginald Wembley. On the Court-Martial Tribunal we have Colonel Delos Wheeler. Will the two ensigns please stand and identify themselves?
Ensign McCarty of the Royal Provincials.
Ensign Mudflap of the King's 8th.
Please be seated. This court-martial is hereby convened by a warrant from His Excellency Sir Henry Clinton, Knight of the Most Honorable Order of the Bath, General and Commander-in-Chief of His Majesty's forces within the colonies laying on the Atlantic Ocean, from Nova Scotia to West Florida inclusive, etc., etc., etc. Bring the prisoner to the dock. Private Reginald Wembley, I advise you that pursuant to the Articles of War, you may put on a defense with any relevant testimony and give evidence before this tribunal. You will be permitted to cross-examine the Crown's witnesses. You at no time shall be compelled to give evidence that might incriminate yourself. You may seek the assistance of counsel who may aid you in presenting your defense. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Stand to be sworn. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give before this court-martial shall be the truth, the whole truth, and only the truth, so help you God?
Indeed.
Very well. Do you wish to present counsel or a second to aid you in your defense, sir?
No, sir, I don't have counsel.
Very well, I will assist you as the Judge Advocate General, and I will also prosecute you as the Judge Advocate.
Strike me as fair. Strike me as very fair.
Will the members of the jury please stand and be sworn? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will duly administer justice according to the rules and articles of the betterment of His Majesty's forces, and according to the Act of Parliament now in force for the punishment and mutiny and desertion, and the other crimes therein mentioned, without partiality, favor, or affection?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Please be seated. We now read the charges and arraign the prisoner. This court-martial being duly assembled and sworn by His Majesty's warrant and duly issued His Majesty's Court of Inquiry the 13th day of August 1778, doth charge the prisoner Reginald Wembley III, a private soldier in the pay of His Majesty's 8th Regiment of Foot, being brought before this General Court-Martial with being guilty of the crime of desertion, a capital offense under Section 6, Article 1 of the Articles of War, and in violation of the Mutiny Act, committed the 13th day of August 1778 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, to wit, at that time and place, while assigned to a picket, Reginald Wembley, with intent aforethought, abandoned his guard post without the intent to return, and did seek to evade and abscond, to consort with rebel females. He was later captured that day and returned in a prisoner exchange. Do you confess to being Reginald Wembley III, lately a private soldier of His Majesty's 8th King's Regiment?
Yes, sir.
Having heard the charges brought against you, you will now enter a plea. So, sir, how say you? Are you guilty of the crime laid to your charge, yea or nay?
Nay, sir.
Very well. Your plea is entered and taken down. Please be seated, or actually you're not wounded. Remain standing, remain standing. The Crown will now begin its case. Members of the jury, distinguished gentlemen, officers of His Majesty's Army. Yesterday, the 13th of August, in the colony of New York, outside the Fort of Niagara, this private, while assigned to a picket in the face of the enemy, showing great cowardice, abandoned his post to consort with rebel women. The evidence will prove that it was his intent to leave his post, that he threw off his regimental coat and vanished into the woods, leaving his post abandoned and the fort in jeopardy. This constituted a breach of the first article of war in the 6th section. And after hearing the evidence, I will ask this court to render a sentence of death. The Crown will now call its first witness. The Crown calls Corporal Barker. Corporal, please remain standing. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the evidence you shall give before this tribunal shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, sir.
All right, please be seated. Corporal Barker, yesterday afternoon, the 13th of August, 1778, were you assigned to a picket outside of this fortress?
No, sir. I was not.
Well, what if anything happened during your... Well, were you on duty?
Yes, sir, I was.
Please tell us, at approximately 2 p.m. yesterday afternoon, what, if anything, occurred unusual?
Sergeant Bloomquist and I were making our rounds to make sure that the pickets were still awake. We came to the last round, and Private Wimbley was not at his post. In fact, he was making his way with 3 surly wenches, who Sergeant Bloomquist is questioning at this time.
And when was he assigned to the picket?
He was assigned at 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
So within 2 hours he had not been seen at his post.
He had been seen at his post at the 1 o'clock round, but not at the 2 o'clock or the 3 or the, I'm sorry. He was not seen at the 3 o'clock round. He was seen at the 1 and the 2, but not the 3.
Upon learning this, what, if anything, did you do?
We called out the guard to investigate, as Sergeant Bloomquist, Privet Mackenzie, and I, we found his coat laying at his post, and no sign of him any further. We actually observed him going into the woods from the 2nd round we were making a round upon.
Did anything else happen after you observed him leaving his post and surrendering his regimental colors?
He disappeared into the woods.
And is it not a fact that shortly thereafter there was an attack by the rebels upon this fort?
Indeed it was.
And his position, therefore, was unguarded in the face of the enemy.
Yes, if we hadn't been making our rounds at that point, we may have been overrun by them.
Because there was no one at that picket to warn the fort of the attack.
No, sir, there was not.
In your experience, is it common for a deserter to surrender his regimental colors?
Indeed it is.
And why is that?
Because they don't want to fight with us anymore. And it is a common practice of the rebels to have women that lure our men out into the woods so that they can partake in this partake in their
disgraceful conduct.
Disgraceful conduct, indeed, sir.
And cowardice as well. But more specifically, why would a private who is fleeing his post surrender his regimental colors?
No longer, so that he is not identified by any other regiment.
And he can blend in with these rebels who wear rags.
Yes, well, thankfully the private is a stocky fellow and is easily identified.
I believe they were.
Yes, we did, when we took him into custody, we did recover his regimental.
And shortly thereafter, the garrison came under fire from that position.
And we did take 3 injuries.
3 injuries. Which one could argue this private is responsible. Very well. Is there anything further you wish to add?
The private has had problems with following women around before. In fact, he is. I believe that. I believe a
You'll have your say.
I believe a sergeant's wife has been chased before as well by the private.
Ensign, do you have a question?
It's of much interest to the board as to how surly these women were.
They were very waifish in their maneuvering. If I didn't have love for king and country, I probably would have followed them into the woods as well.
Very well. Private Wembley, you have the right to cross-examine this witness. Do you have any questions of Corporal Barker?
Yes.
Proceed.
Corporal. But my first question, you claimed to have made a round and not seen me at 2 o'clock. But then you later recanted that statement and said I was there at 2 o'clock.
Can you read it right, sir?
Well, no.
Neither can I. I don't take a scorecard of everything.
Well, then how do you know what time it was? Maybe it wasn't even my shift.
Oh, it was your shift. I put you there at 12, if you remember.
But I had asked another private of mine, another private
Address
friend
your
of mine-
comments to the court.
I'm sorry. I had asked another private of mine, Private Chief Shingle, to watch my station for me while I went out into the woods.
Private, you will have an opportunity to state your case. Do you have any questions for this witness?
Apparently not.
Very well. Corporal Barker, unless the tribunal has anything further.
I see no relevance to it. If he was at his post, he was at his post. It makes no difference exactly.
Very well. You're excused.
Sir?
At this time, having heard the Crown's evidence, the Crown will rest, calling no further witnesses. As the prisoner, you have a right to testify on your own behalf and call witnesses on your account. Do you wish to testify or call witnesses on your account?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you shall give before this tribunal shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Very well. Proceed. Who do you wish to call as your first witness? According to your witness list, I can barely read this chicken scratch. Phineas Ramsey Shingle?
Yes, sir. An old friend of mine.
Come forward and be sworn.
I'd asked yesterday to watch my post.
Good day, sir.
How do you do? Didn't I arrest you yesterday? Very well. Court to take notice this man was arrested yesterday.
What was he arrested for?
Perjury.
Perjury?
You were arrested for perjury yesterday.
Well played. Yes.
Oh, that will be of no help.
Yes, I can.
Silence! Silence! Raise your right hand. For whatever it's worth, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth with respect to the evidence you shall give before this tribunal, so help you God?
Indubitably.
Indubitably. Sit.
No, it's because they were not beautiful women. They were horribly, horribly ugly women.
That's not true.
Just a moment. Ask another question if you have any.
My entire case rests upon the fact that he saw me go into the woods to investigate rustling.
But you just said the women weren't ugly.
No, but there were women. But I had assumed that they were spies, because our commanding officer had mentioned that those were possible. So I was simply doing my duty and investigating further, going above and beyond. And the king would be proud.
Was he to investigate the wrestling before or after you left?
No. He was watching my post while I investigated the wrestling.
It would seem as though Corporal Barker was investigating your wrestling, sir. Sausage wrestling.
He was on a reconnaissance mission.
All right. Any further questions for this witness?
No, he's decimated my whole testimony.
Right. Sir!
My apologies.
Sir, Private Chief Shingle.
Yes.
You heard the testimony of Corporal Barker. You are not possibly impugning his integrity or what he testified to, are you?
Well, I can't support his integrity at all.
Sir, in this case, on this matter, are you saying that Corporal Barker has perjured himself?
I do know that he was drinking quite a bit of rum before his shift.
I have nothing further for this witness. Does anyone else from the board wish to question him?
We talked to him yesterday.
Being rather confused by the timeline of this, I see little relevance anyway, considering the character of this man. I let him go.
You're excused.
Thank you, sir.
Your trial's next week. Anything further in the terms of witnesses?
No, sir. I'd just like to...
Well, who is this Lionel Bush Thatcher?
Lionel Bush Thatcher.
Do you wish to...
Oh, I did not...
Are you sure? You don't want to make your case any worse, do you?
No, I...
Well, decide. Do you wish to call this man or not?
Yes, sure.
Now, Thatcher, stand to be sworn. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you will give to this tribunal shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Indubitably.
Indubitably. You may inquire.
You'd almost think they were coached.
Mr. Bush Thatcher, you've known me for many years. Would you ever know me as a person to abandon the British?
Absolutely not, sir. You see, I've served with Reginald here in several previous campaigns. We lost a lot of good men, including a mutual friend of ours, one Mr. Nigel Boosbury. Nigel was a good man, and at his burial ceremony, I'll never forget what Reggie said to me. He looked at me, he looked at the pyre, and he said, "Ah, the Brits. Ah, the Brits."
Has this man also been convicted of perjury?
No, just that.
I was appealing to do another.
I want my 2 guineas back, sir.
Never mind. Any further questions of this witness?
Furthermore, would you ever expect me to abandon my love of the king and for the beautiful red regimental coat of the King's Eighth?
Absolutely not. I've oft heard Reginald comment upon the loveliness of his red coat. He swore he would never take it off unless at the utmost end of need.
So even if I had absconded into the woods, wouldn't it be reasonable to believe that I most certainly would have come back?
Indeed, there's no reason he would have left his coat behind.
Thank you.
No reasons. Very well. You're excused unless the tribunal has any questions. You're excused. Now, remembering my admonishment that you are not required to say anything that might incriminate yourself, you are now permitted to make a statement. However, if you do, I am permitted to cross-examine you. Do you wish to make a statement?
Yes.
Very well. Proceed.
My only statement would be to once again reinforce my deep love of king and country, and to implore the court members to grant any sort of leniency on me for this. I would never abandon the army. I love the British Empire.
Ah, the Brits.
Yes, the Brits. And even if I had gone into the woods with these women, as the charges claim, there were 4 women. I've been here at Fort Niagara for 7 years without complaint. No, I haven't seen a woman in 7 years. Yes. Let alone the 4 lovely. The only woman here is Sergeant Longfellow's wife, and she's not very good looking.
What you talking, sir?
Corporal Barker said that these women were a fright.
There were 4 of them. 4 women.
As a point of order, how many women are there? I believe that 2 was originally read off, then 3 are somewhere with the sergeant, and now 4.
So I can't keep track. We're up to 4 now. Anyway, in any event,
He seems to know quite well how many women there were in the woods.
Private, is it a fact that you did or did not surrender your regimental coat before fleeing into the woods?
Well,
Is
yes.
it not a fact?
Yes, but have you seen the color of that coat? It's very bright, not so much for hiding out in the woods.
And white is better.
Well, no, but I didn't so much as take the coat off as the ladies took the coat off.
Much love for country, less for the king, I believe.
But it is